Hello, welcome back to my channel. We are going to continue reading some scary stories today, because you guys seem to like that, and also I like it, and it's fun. So without further ado, let's start with the first one. Also, these are all available on Reddit. That's where I'm finding them. I don't like to talk about if they're real or if they're fake. These are all supposedly real. So take that as you will. Okay. This is just called Scary Encounter. I'm not really one to talk about the paranormal a lot, but this has recently been on my mind. When I was 17, I lived with my mom and my 6-year-old sister. It was a hot summer day, freshly 10 a.m. My girlfriend had stayed with me that night. My bedroom was upstairs, and if you visualize it, you can go down the stairs from my bedroom and turn left, and my sister's room was right there. My mom was out at work that morning. For context, my sister got this porcelain doll from my tia. Context? That's like the whole story. I'm not exactly sure why, but she gave it to her as a birthday present, and my sister loved it, like way too much. My mom kept it in the closet because she got weird vibes from it. I'm not sure if it has any ties to the situation, but I've never had anything paranormal happen to me after we sold it. I had woken up before my girlfriend and went downstairs to make coffee. My sister's door was open, and I swear on everything I believe, I watched my girlfriend walk into my sister's room. I abandoned my coffee and followed her in there. She was standing, looking out the window next to my sister. I went next to her, stared out the window for a bit, then asked what she was doing in there. When I turned my head, nobody was there. Come to find out, she'd been asleep upstairs the whole time. Extra, my sister woke up the next week, and came crying to my room because she saw something on all fours in her doorway, and we had no pets. Another extra, after we got the doll, my mother used to have my room upstairs. So she told me when we swapped rooms that there was something that would stare at her through the doorway, perched on the stairs. Can anyone try to explain this to me? Nope. No. I don't know. I just don't know. Okay? And the doll's creepy. The girlfriend's kind of creepy, right? Guys, did we consider that? That the girlfriend could be possessed or something. I mean, and then the thing on all fours, the mom, there's some kind of haunting happening here. I liked how this person kept adding extra and extra and extra. Girl, I don't know. I can't explain this to you. That was an interesting way to start. Let's continue. This one sounds really scary. I was sitting alone in my car at midnight when 2 children knocked on the window and I almost let them in. Guys, I don't tell this story often, not because I don't remember it. I remember every second of it. I remember the particular orange of the gas station lights reflecting in the wet asphalt. I remember the way the coffee cup felt warm in my hand right before I looked up and saw them standing at the edge of the parking lot. I remember the cold that came before. I understood why. That's the part nobody talks about, the cold. The way your body knows something before your eyes have given it any reason to know. I have since read every account I can find, and there are more than you think, and every single one of them mentions it. The dread that arrives before the cause. The animal part of you screaming to drive away before you can even articulate what you've been driving away from. I didn't drive away fast enough. It was October late. I'd been at my sister's place and stayed too long. The way you do when you don't see each other enough. I pulled into a gas station off the highway. I don't remember the town. I've tried. Filled the tank, got coffee, and then got back in the car. That's when I noticed the 2 children standing at the far edge of the lot. A boy and a girl, young, 10, maybe 11, standing completely still in the space where the gas station light gave out and the dark began. Their clothes were wrong for October light jackets, the kind you wear in September when you've given up on summer but winter hasn't arrived yet. I noticed them the way you notice something peripheral. There's that word again, peripheral. That your brain flags before you know why. Then the boy started walking towards me. He knocked on the passenger window, 3 times. Soft, patient. I felt the cold before I rolled down the window. I want to be clear about that. I felt it before I had any reason to feel it, before I could see anything wrong. My stomach dropped the way it drops on a roller coaster, that involuntary physical plunge, and I had a sudden and complete certainty that something was not right. I did not roll down the window. He smiled and spoke through the glass. "We need a ride home. It's not far. You can let us in." Not, "Could you give us a ride?" Not, "Would you mind?" "You can let us in." I asked where their parents were. "Our mom is home. We just need to get there. You have to let us in. We can't come unless you say it's okay." That last part. "We can't come in unless you say it's okay." I've thought about that line every day since. I asked him to look at me, or maybe he said, "Look at me." I've tried to remember which of us said it, and I genuinely cannot. But I looked at him, and his eyes were black. Not dark brown, not dark gray, black. Completely and entirely black from lid to lid. No white, no iris, no pupil, no reflection. Like 2 holes in the surface of his face, like looking at something that went back very, very far and had nothing at the bottom. I started the car. I don't remember deciding to. My hand just moved. He put both palms flat on the passenger window. "You have to say yes. You have to say yes." I reversed out of the space. His hand slid off the glass. No prints, no smear, nothing, as if they'd never touched it. I drove. I didn't look in the rear view for a long time. When I finally did, the parking lot was empty. The gas station attendant was visible inside, sitting at his counter on his phone, completely alone, undisturbed. I've spent a long time trying to explain what I saw that night. I found others who've seen the same thing, in different cities, different years, different parking lots and porches and doorsteps. They all described the same eyes, the same cold before the contact, the same instruction. "You have to let us in. You have to say yes." One woman did say yes. She let them into her house. She woke up 14 hours later on her kitchen floor with no memory of what happened between the moment they crossed her threshold and the moment she opened her eyes on the cold tile. She was never able to explain the marks on the inside of her front door. Long, vertical, parallel. 4 lines dragged from handle height all the way to the floor, as if something had been clinging to it from the inside, as if something had not wanted to leave. I'm not going to tell you what to do if you ever see them. I think you already know. Don't say yes, and don't let them in. What the hell? Ew. Ugh. Guys, I feel like crying right now. There's not many times where I've read something like this and I can feel my stomach drop. That was gross. Ugh. I'm so sorry. I literally, the tension in that. And, the thing is, maybe not in this situation, but I literally just saw something, maybe on Facebook, maybe it was on the news, I don't remember, where it was a young girl ran up to this other girl. This is obviously a little different. Ran up to this other girl who was getting in her car, and she was in her pajamas and stuff, and she let the kid in her car and then called the police. My cat just hit her feeder. Are you kidding me? That's how you know I'm really scared. That was insane. And I thought she was I was like, that's so awesome. I would do the same thing in that situation. It's just weird that I remember seeing that. And then this is just gross because, and maybe they do specifically go after women. That would make sense. I don't know. It's gross regardless. Any gas station at night has a gross vibe, right? That's what I thought. Okay. Here's another one. The title is a little weird. So it says Simpson. Guys, this one's a little weird. Simpson family plot. Unless you're the real Simpsons, this might be corny. Drawn to a grave that we were just speaking about. Yesterday, my mother-in-law and I took the kids for a walk through a cemetery I had never visited before. She finds it peaceful there, and it was a beautiful day to get the kids outside. It felt like a quiet, safe place to wander, enjoy the weather, and read some of the gravestones along the way. As we were walking to the cemetery, she told me about an experience she had there a few years ago that had always stayed with her. She had seen a man openly weeping at a grave. His grief was so visible and heartbreaking that she couldn't stop thinking about him. After he left, she walked over to see whose grave he had been visiting and discovered it appeared to be his son's. The thought of a father mourning his child affected her deeply, and she said she had never forgotten that moment. We continued our walk and spent about an hour exploring the cemetery, reading gravestones as we went. Eventually, we made our way to the very back and decided it was the time to head toward the exit. Just as we were about to leave, I noticed a gravestone with the name Simpson on it. For some reason, it immediately caught my attention. I couldn't explain why, but I kept looking at that particular stone. There were many similar graves around it, and this one wasn't close to the path. In fact, it was several rows back, requiring me to walk quite a distance to reach it. Still, I felt strangely compelled to go and read it. I totally understand what he's talking about, like that intuitive feeling where you're like, I definitely have to go check out whatever it is. The others had already started walking back toward the exit when I said, just let me look at this one first. What felt odd to me afterwards was that I walked directly toward that stone without stopping to look at any of the others along the way. For the entire walk up until that point, I had been reading nearly every gravestone I passed. But this time, though, I wasn't interested in any of them. I just wanted to get to that one. When I reached it, I discovered it was a family plot. The son had passed away in 2022, the father in 2024, and the wife was still living. There was also an airplane engraved on the stone. My mother-in-law walked over to see what I was looking at. The moment she read the name, she stopped. That's the one, she said. I asked what she meant, and she immediately became emotional. That's the name, she said. That's the grave. Oh, I just got chills. I literally just got chills down my back. I pointed out that the father had passed away a couple years ago and was now buried there as well. She became even more emotional. We decided to look up the family online and found the father's obituary. When I showed her this photograph, she instantly recognized him as a man who she had seen crying at his son's grave all those years before. People are so mean in the Reddit comments. I don't really get on Reddit except to, do the horror stories, but people are mean. Like they're like, okay, here's something, traumatic that happened to me or, whatever. They're like, autocorrect got you or, and that's like a stupid one, but I'll find one and maybe I'll read it to you. But they're just rude. They're like, they don't even care about the story. Like, why even comment? They're just being rude. They're like, this is the dumbest story I've ever read. Anywho, just side note. Did we like that one? That one, I don't think was as scary as the kid one for me. It's definitely, this is something that I think could happen. There was all kinds of, weird things about this story. One of them being, she found it peaceful there to walk around the graveyard. Who is your mother-in-law? Why is she acting like that? Graveyards, I understand what she means, kind of. They're, a weird vibe, though. They're just weird. Any graveyard you ever go to, but it's always weird. Weird. And I feel like there's spirits, there's energy there, obviously, right? This is very weird. And the fact that the dad died, and next to him or buried next to him, gross. I don't like that one bit. This is called My Mom Made My Brother Promise Not to Tell Me What He Saw. I've never really been someone who believes in ghosts or anything like that, but this is one experience I've never been able to explain. When I was around 8 years old, my mom, a single parent at the time, moved me and my brother into a small apartment in a pretty rough area. It was low-income housing, a lot of crime, and there was even a police officer inside the complex. A watered-down version of the projects for the state I lived in. I have a lot of weird stories from living there, but this is the one that stuck with me. I know this kind of vibe. One night, everything was completely normal. I went to bed like usual. My bed faced directly toward my bedroom door, and I always slept curled up on my side because I was scared of everything as a kid. Sometime in the middle of the night, I woke up. I was on my back, which again I never do. That's when I looked at my door. My cat just made a noise. It was wide open. I never slept I never slept with it open because I was terrified of the dark. Standing in the hall outside my door was a woman. I know how cliche this sounds, but she was wearing a white lace dress with a small veil pinned into her hair. The part that didn't feel normal was her skin. It looked blue and almost like it was rotting. She didn't move or speak. She just stood there staring directly at me. What's weird is I wasn't scared. I felt like I couldn't move. But my body wasn't fighting it. I knew I wasn't sleeping. I was a very anxious kid. I hated sleeping alone, and I scared easily. But in that moment, I didn't feel panic. I just stared back at her. I could even see her chest rising and falling like she was breathing. After a while, I just closed my eyes and went back to sleep. The next morning, my door was closed. I told my mom what I saw, and she gave me a weird look, then changed the subject. My brother didn't say anything. Years later, when I was around 14 or 15, we were talking about that apartment at dinner. I brought the story up again just casually, and everything went quiet. My brother looked at my mom and said, "I think she's old enough to know." Back then, his room was down the same hallway as mine. One night, he woke up thirsty and went to get water from the kitchen. When he stepped into the hallway, he saw a woman standing there, and he described her exactly the same way I did. She didn't acknowledge him. She was just staring into my room. He got freaked out and went back to bed. Thanks, bro. My mom panicked and told him he couldn't tell me because she didn't want me to be too scared to sleep alone. That same morning, I came into the kitchen and told them what I had seen. I hadn't thought about it much after that, but recently my sister told a story about how a few years prior, I was talking in my sleep about a woman outside on the swing set dressed in white. She was laughing telling the story, but all I could picture was the same woman. Nothing like this has ever happened to me again, and we moved out of that apartment not long after. I still don't know what to make of it, but I can still see her clearly even now. Yuck. Guys, who do you think she was? Like, that is kind of cliche. Like, everyone's like, oh, the woman in white, the woman in black, the veil. But maybe it's cliche for a reason. Maybe this stuff does happen. I don't want to know. I don't want to be part of that. Also, like, the blue skin. That's weird. The blue skin that's, like, rotting. Obviously, that sounds like it's a dead person. But that is interesting. I don't know. What do you guys think? Maybe they died in that apartment. I'm always worried about that stuff. Like, I'm going to move into an apartment or a house that's, like, haunted or someone's died in or something. I don't know. Someone said she probably is not looking at you, just in the room where a loved one may have died, or she was watching over a loved one. I like thinking about that more, but the fact that her sister was like, you were talking in your sleep about this woman that was conveniently wearing the same dress. Like, I think, I'm like grossing myself out tonight. I think she probably felt a connection to her for some reason. Maybe she was protecting her. Maybe that's why she didn't feel scared. But as a super anxious child with undiagnosed anxiety, I believe this, it's a sister, so it's a girl. I get this person so heavily, and yuck. Oh no, guys. This says, ew. Guys, this one says, Skinwalker, someone tell me if I'm accurate. Back in 2021, me and my friend were driving around some logging roads late at night in Maine because we were bored, and we ended up stopping near this old clearing in the woods. It was super foggy and dead quiet until we started hearing whistling coming from the trees. At first, it sounded like someone messing with us, but then we saw this tall thing standing just outside the headlights. It looked human at first, but the proportions were completely wrong. Like, its arms were way too long and its legs bent weird. The creepiest part was how it stood there, smiling at us. Not normal smiling either, like its mouth stretched too far across its face. The second Tyler flashed the high beams at it, the thing moved sideways into the trees insanely fast, almost twitching instead of running. We freaked out and took off down the road, but after like 30 seconds, no, I just read it. I heard tapping on my passenger window. I looked over and that thing was running next to the car. Well, we were going at least 40 miles per hour. Its face was right next to mine, and it looked almost wet, with these pale eyes reflecting in the dark. Then it started trying to talk. At first it sounded distorted, but after a second, it perfectly copied Tyler's voice and said, "Stop the car." I've never seen someone panic like he did right there. A couple nights later, Tyler called me at like 2 in the morning, sounding terrified, asking if I had been outside his house. I obviously said no, and he told me he heard tapping on his second-story window and then heard my voice outside saying, "Tyler, let me in." I need to relax. He said he almost answered until he realized I never call him Tyler, I always call him Ty. When he looked outside, he saw something crouched on the roof under his window, smiling up at him. Ever since then, I don't drive those roads at night anymore because honestly, I still think whatever that thing was followed us home. The only comment on this one said, "Being from the South, we always know whistling in the woods is a bad thing. I won't even look. It's time to go." Like, yeah, like that. I'm not from the South, but yeah. Also, okay, you never take those roads anymore, but what about your friend? What about Tyler? Ty. He lives there. Ew. We're getting some good ones today, guys. Okay, that concludes tonight's haunted stories. Thank you guys so much for the support. And again, I would love to get people's real haunted experiences so I could read from those and maybe not stories that everyone's heard or, similar things. So if you're interested in that, just comment below so I can see if people are interested. And thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you shortly, and maybe with another ghost story. That's kind of what I feel like doing right now. Okay? Bye.